All right. Hey guys, how's it going? Can you hear me? Let's make sure you can hear me first. Just going to load something up here. Welcome back, guys. It's 2026. We're back with Rukshan on X. I know normally we have the opposition podcast on Thursdays, but Avi's been quite busy. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and he's also preparing for a trip. So we've been a bit busy with that. So the podcast isn't happening, but I'm doing an impromptu episode of Rukshan on X because, as you can see, I've put up a news website that I'm working on, The Context. I share that on Facebook and on X as well. Probably will share it on a few other platforms later, but it's just in the early infancy of the development stage. And I wanted to share the actual journey of creating this with you because, as you know, I've been covering news for a long time now, since the good old days of the crazy times of COVID. And a lot of things have changed, even, my trajectory in terms of the types of stories that I'm covering and the types of protests I attend. It's been a very interesting few years for me as well. But all during that time, I've always really wanted to build a news service, a news app. I don't like I was going to say I hate the mainstream media, the fake news. I do have a lot of the Donald Trump-esque distrust and distaste of fake news when it comes to what we've seen the legacy media do throughout those years, especially during COVID time. So that's one of the reasons I've, been wanting to tinker with my own platform. And I know there's X. Obviously, I use X very heavily, and that is in itself a platform, but not everyone uses X. And that's the problem that I find, especially in Australia, like the discussions that we're having on a platform like X, where, it is really the future of news. When Elon Musk talks about what's happening on X and it being the number one app around the world, it is the future of news, but it's not being consumed by everyone. So, what I'm looking to do is, I guess, reach more people, people who are outside of these platforms, people who are still stuck to the mainstream television boxes and, getting their news and facts from that. Because at the end of the day, if you look at around the world, it's often those people that end up, deciding on the outcomes of elections, especially in a country like Australia. We've got a lot of major things happening right now when it comes to free speech, hate speech, censorship. And, we're only in this situation because we continue to elect governments who get away with selling the absolute nonsense to a lot of people. So it's really good, I think, the more people that we can reach outside of these platforms, because it's one thing to argue amongst ourselves on a platform like X and, do ratios and have debates. And, I go through that a lot with people as well who have a go at me. And not everyone's going to support, our views on X. And we have these, massive debates. But at the end of the day, I think the real challenge is when it comes to independent media is getting it across to more people. And that's really why I've looked at building another kind of avenue, a web app that I've always wanted to build for a long time. It's not really been possible in terms of some of the major development costs involved with developing something like this, especially by linking into a lot of these APIs from platforms like Grok and X. Especially, I talk about X a lot, but they've really made access to information and aggregating information and following trends as it pertains to news really easy. So that's one of the reasons that I'm just reading the comments. Guys, give me a second. I'm just gonna just talking to everyone first, and I'll read some of your comments too. Let me just pull up my comments panel. So that's one of the reasons that I wanted to do this, because the news, especially in Australia, we don't have that many choices. There are those of us on the front lines on online spaces that are sharing content. I do that a lot on my Facebook, for instance, and there's many others that kind of take information, try to get it to people. But it's not packaged in a way where it's kind of, for lack of a better description, normie friendly. People have been accustomed to receiving their news in a certain format. It used to be via newspapers, then it switched to digital formats. Now it's kind of all over the place on social media, but there's still a large section of people that kind of use apps, get their news from mainstream sources. Like in Australia, for instance, we have, The Age, the Sydney Morning Herald, the Herald Sun, and so on. And, I want to compete with them. Obviously, I'm a one-man show, but I think we can leverage the power of what's happening in the AI space as well, in terms of helping with a lot of these agents and things that can help with tasks. And so a lot of the initial work that I'm doing, that I've shared a little, I'll try to get my screen going as well. Give me a second. Let me get my screen going, see if that works. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, great to have you all on here. Thanks for everyone jumping in on the comments as well. I will get to your comments in a second. People are writing it's a fake live stream. Guys, I'm here. I'm going to read your comments. Someone said, say sorry or else. We have the good old ABC for news. Yeah, so if you guys don't know, Australia, like the main source of news that a lot of people in Australia get is government funded from the Australian broadcasting system, from the ABC. Very similar if you're in the UK to the BBC, or maybe even PBS in the US is probably something similar. But in Australia, the ABC is very much, taxpayer funded. They disseminate fake news, disinformation to everyone. And, most of the population, unfortunately, aren't hooked into, the kind of algorithms that we are, where we get a lot of different takes from different people to make a better decision in terms of, political debates mostly. I think that's the most important type of news in a way when it comes to election times, because you see how important it is our leaders are, right? Having Donald Trump right now as a leader of America, it's very important, right? The decisions that he's making for people all around the world, whether it's in Venezuela, potentially protecting protesters in Iran, all those things are consequential to the rest of the world and how we live our lives as well. So the decisions that we make at election time is really important. And a lot of that has to do with news and media. And that's where the battle is. That's why Elon Musk bought X, spending, whatever amounts of billions of dollars he spent on it. And that's why there's a massive debate around censorship and X. Countries like the UK, Keir Starmer, these kind of losers, and even in Australia, Albanese, getting all worked up about these grok images and trying to ban these platforms. It's just nonsense, right? So there's no way that I can, as an individual, compete against some of these bigger platforms. And as I have my X platform, and I share news, and a lot of us do that. There's a lot of bigger accounts, much bigger than me in Australia, that do that as well, and they do a great job. But I want to take that news as well, because there's some great takes from people online. There's some great content being created. There's some great news articles being broken by independent media. Very recently, we had in I think is. The Somali fraud scheme, right? The child daycare scheme, right? Being uncovered by independent journalist Nick Shirley in America. Now that made international news all around the world. We're watching it here in Australia on our mainstream media. And that's because these news stories now are breaking on platforms like X. So that's pretty much why I'm building the context, which is, let me just show you. I know there's not many followers. It's not very. I will verify this, guys, and I'll get it all running properly. A lot of this was brought forward because Parliament in Australia is actually sitting much earlier than planned. Originally, it was meant to start on February 3rd, but they're starting next week on the 19th, right? I think on Monday. And we're going into one of the most important times in Australia in terms of free speech, because these new hate speech laws are coming. So I wanted to get elements of the site at least ready for that, and some of the things that I'm working on. So I appreciate that people are supporting me. I've got here a GoFundMe campaign as well, if you guys want to chip in and help me with the development costs and the things that I'm working on. And, this is something that I want to do. This is something that I've always wanted to build. So if you want to, support me in that, I really appreciate it. And a lot of you already have. I'll just go to that post. So I want to thank everyone that's supporting me on GoFundMe. I've got the crypto bros as well, who have inundated me on the comments here as well. A community formed on bags. Guys, thank you. I don't know who you guys are or what this community is going on. I'll log into it soon. I'll check it all out soon. I wanted to do this live stream today as well. This was kind of a part of my plan to tell people what I'm working on. But yeah, whatever you guys are doing, thank you as well. I will check in there soon. Obviously, I'm not just a crypto bro. I got this new service that I'm building as well. But yeah, I'll check into whatever you guys are doing as well. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the support. In terms of the ideas around the context, it's really around, there's a certain way that news is delivered to us from mainstream platforms. And, they'll give you all this spin about how they're, fact-based and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, great. I mean, they have their certain biases. And if you listen closely enough and you read the language closely enough, you understand that. But what I'm working on is getting that news. So I've built aggregators in the backend using Claude. How do you pronounce it? So I'm using AI coding tools to build this because, even though I've messed around with things like WordPress and some development in the past building websites, to be able to build these features with the use of these kind of new AI tools is revolutionary. I would have never been able to do this. So I'm leveraging that power, and I'm able to get large swathes of news from around the world. And then the aim is then to link it up with data from X, based on people who are having discussions around these topics that I'm covering. And yes, it is heavily focused on Australian politics initially, because you can't go too big. I got to start somewhere, and the niche for me and what I know is Australian politics, politics of the Western Hemisphere, and politics of the Anglosphere in a sense. So Western politics, so maybe a little bit of American politics, UK politics, because it all impacts us here in Australia. So initially, I'm starting from that space. I want to be able to aggregate news, which is what I'm building in the backend. And then this also then translates into a front end that I have to build after this. So right now, it's literally just I'm building in all the scrapers to get all the data. This video that I'm showing you from the backend that I've created is pretty much taking all from in Australia, all of our police, fire, emergency services, the Parliament, the Liberal Party, the Labor Party, they all put up press releases every day. And that's where a lot of the news comes from. So a lot of the stories you see in the mainstream media also come from these press releases, right? They just write it up in a nice way. So I've built a system to scrape everything, and it gives me the latest press releases as soon as they're released in the back end, and I'm ready to go. And from there, I will be able to, again, this is a one-man show for now. I'll be able to then use that to, write my articles, share that out, tweet it out. And ideally, all of this then adds context to other news that's breaking as well. So in the front end, what the end user gets, you got to listen to me here, because obviously I'm trying to explain something that's not really available to show yet. But in the front end, what the end user will get is the context based on everything that's been released around this piece of news in terms of what's relevant. And so that'll be the press conferences, the comments from politicians, potentially the stuff that they're saying in Parliament. Plus, that'll be linked in with, the top commentators in Australia on X, the discussions they're having, the comments that are happening on those discussions. And then that'll all be spliced into an article. And obviously, I'm going to use a little bit of help of, things like, I've got like a Grok API, ChatGTP API, and just to do some of that, neutral analysis. Because a lot of people will complain that, Rukshan, you're biased, you have certain views. Because I am, conservative, I am right-wing myself. And I don't want to enter these biases too much into the news coverage. I do want to get a neutral perspective, which is why I want to get different types of, left and right, middle, center, whatever it is. Put all that news together, get this AI-powered agents as well to help with a bit of the explaining some of the context in terms of what the disagreements are between people. And then, having all that content available so if someone's reading that bit of news, they can go to that. And that is kind of the overall goal. I know it might sound airy-fairy. I have worked on like a prototype, so it's not just, I'm just not just jumping in here and making stuff up. I'm showing you some of the back end in terms of how to get all that into the app. And then the other thing is very specific things for Australia. So, I'm trying to link into the Parliament House here, get all their dates, get all their senators, get all the information, in relation to what they're doing on that day, what bills they're talking about, how the votes go, and then link all of that up. So it's a resource as well. And the goal is, which I got to see first based on how much this actually costs to do. Because obviously there's a lot of costs with the APIs and pulling this data from X and ChatGPT, as I'm finding out, especially when you're doing a lot of data analysis. But the end goal is to make a part of it automatic as well. So a lot of that can be done based on the topic that's being discussed, and it's just available. You just go into it, you click the context, and it just shows you the different takes. It shows you all of this information automatically. There's not too much manual inputting from me. So I don't want to editorialize anything too much. It's not going to be too heavily opinionated, the context. It's more of a neutral political source, but also a source that informs people about the different types of views that are happening in the world and why people have those views. So yeah, that's a bit of what's happening there. I've got to catch up with the comments, guys. I got a super chat as well. Thanks for the super chat. Mate, it's been a long time, Anthony, because we haven't done a live stream since last year during the holidays. But yes, Like you always do, you blame Donald Trump. It is Trump's fault. So yeah, thanks, mate. Good to see you on here. I look forward to being back up next week with. So normally I'll do a live stream on Mondays, Monday nights, Wednesday nights, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays we have the opposition podcast on the live stream as well. So I'll be back with that. Thanks to everyone that's commenting right now. Thanks to all the bags bros, the bags guys here. Claim the fees on stream, brother. Don't fade bags. All right, give me a second, guys. Let me just go back to my X quickly. Let me just answer some of your comments, guys, and then I'll get to some of the things that are going on. Hey, nice to see you again. Thanks for checking in this year. Svetkag, how you doing? Good to see you again. Soul says, hey, check the bags token. They're made for you. Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that. Thanks for the community. Let me just go to that here. I will talk about this soon as well. This thing here, so I have to claim it or something. So I will do that as well. I don't know who's behind this, but thank you. I appreciate it. Give me a second. Let me just go back to these comments. Dan Max says, feels like forever since I've been live with Rook. Yeah, man, it's been a couple of, at least 2 months really since I've done Rukshan On X, obviously going into the holidays, and then we had the Bondi terror attack here in Australia, and obviously in the holiday season, and then coming back in the new year. I've been busy during that time working in the back end, building this web app, and messing around with different ideas. And then now it's kind of, the ideas are all there, and I've got the back end kind of coming together. So it's really, I thought, it'd be really interesting to launch this and then also build it live over the next couple of days or weeks as I keep building it up and seeing where it takes me and seeing some of the feedback that you guys give me as well to improve this. Now, I'm not saying that this is the bee's knees and this is the best news website and all these kind of things. I'm not. This is not what I'm doing. This is a passion project. I'm doing this because I think I think it's a good idea. I would like to have something like this where I can go and see everything at a glance in terms of political issues that are happening in Australia. And the more we can link it all in, and the more we can make it easier for people, I think that'll be important. So definitely, let me just check here. Samson, good to see you, mate. Rukshan News. F said 67 says, do you read the news? Von is saying, is this pre-recorded? Nah, man, I think this is from earlier. Might get more fans from Hillsong Church. Mate, I do go to Hillsong Church. I love going to church on Sundays. It's a great. I look forward to going to church on Sundays. It's just amazing to be around people and in the worship of God. So I think that's amazing. Louisa, thank you for joining in. And look, if there's anyone here that supported me from my Facebook, let me just go into my Facebook as well. Just give me a second. Go to my Facebook. I just want to thank you guys as well, because I know there's a lot of support on Facebook as well, and I really appreciate it. If I can log in. Yeah, here we go. So guys, thank you for everyone that's on Facebook, a part of this as well. You guys are watching on Facebook, obviously, but also I just want to thank you for all the amazing comments and the support on Facebook as well in relation to this. And I know a lot of you have commented and sharing with me in private your donations on GoFundMe. So I really appreciate it, and thank you for the support. It's I know many of you throughout the years sometimes, because through these chats and then seeing people in person as well, and just to have some of those nice comments come from you guys, I really appreciate it. So thank you for that. For the Facebook crew who are watching, I do appreciate it if you are watching, but I will message back all of you who have helped out and donated on Facebook. So thank you for that. Someone is saying Facebook is cancer. You know what? Zuckerberg has changed a few things since. Thanks again to Elon Musk. Meta, Zuckerberg has come around a little bit more in terms of their censorship. They were horrible during COVID. I don't know how many times I was suppressed, hit with strikes for fake news and all this kind of nonsense they were doing back then. But since that time, they've been really good. So before I read the rest of the comments, people want me to claim these fees on bags. Getting a lot of messages for this, so I will do this, guys. I have no idea what this does, but I'm going to click claim, and then I'm going to continue doing my live stream for probably another hour or so while I'm speaking to people about the news and what's happening and what I'm planning to do with the context. So just click claim, I think. Yes. Yeah, their fees claimed successfully. All right, guys, you can stop messaging me. Oh, all right, let's keep going. Thanks, mate, for jumping in from Australia. Australia is the best. We're a great country. It's an amazing place. Having our issues at the moment, though, in this country, obviously, like anywhere else in the world, but more so in Australia. Lucas says, Rukshan, where is Avi? Why didn't you guys do the usual stream? Yeah, Avi's just been really busy. He was covering a protest, pro-Iranian protest outside the embassy yesterday. So he's been busy with that and doing that edit. And I totally understand it. I totally get it. The swing state. Strange how the media is ignoring the Iran situation. Yeah, I mean, they do cover it in a way, but not in the same enthusiasm, right? In the same way that they covered, for instance, the Palestinian, Gaza conflict, Israel-Gaza conflict, right? It's not in the same way they covered that. They're very different when they talk about Iran. But when you see actually the footage that's coming out on X, again, going back to independent media, which is why this is important, the stuff that you're seeing from independent media, especially the brave people from Iran who are somehow sending through this footage that they're filming through things like Starlink because the internet's still blacked out there, even though the mullahs say that, the internet's all back and all this kind of bullshit. It's not. It's all blacked out there. The brave, the citizen journalists in Iran, or the people that just with their phones are getting this news out to the world, and it's making a difference in the sense that it's getting the focus of people like Donald Trump onto that news. It's getting the focus of really important people that can possibly do something to stem the killing. Now, there's also all sorts of figures that are being quoted in terms of how many people have been killed in Iran. I've seen anywhere from 2,000 to 20,000. Every single death is tragic. I think the numbers are at the higher end because that regime, the amount of time they've cut the internet down, and the videos that are coming out just in certain areas, the amount of people that they've killed, I think the numbers are going to be very high. But we might never know the truth because they're already blaming Mossad and they're blaming the US and the CIA, and they're making up all these stories. So unless something happens there, and you never know with Trump, there was a bit of a situation before where they cleared the Iranian airspace because possibly strikes were going to happen, and I think now it's back to normal. But you never know with Trump, so something could happen even while we're on this stream. Mate, there's no VL turbos for sale. Samina, how you doing? What's the topic, brother? Rukshan Fernandez. Well, Samina, I've just been talking about this news platform that I'm building, the context. It's just the very start of it. Obviously, there's a lot more work to do, but I've kind of put it out there, which I think is a good thing because it puts pressure on me as well to actually go through, finish it, and get it up and running, right? That's one of the most important things that you got to do. You got to actually get these things running. So me and Avi are streaming next. Hard to say because I think Avi might be making an overseas trip at some point. So it's hard to say exactly when that will be, but we will at some point be back with the Opposition podcast as well. I've got a super chat here. Do you think the new hate speech bill will pass? I think it'll pass in a varied form from how it's been introduced now. So we've seen a lot of commentary about the hate speech laws in Australia, but in terms of how it's being discussed amongst everyone from the political class, a lot of the Conservatives have now turned against it, including the Liberal Party who have dropped support, I believe. And even the Greens now, right, the Greens, left-leaning Greens, have come out to some extent against it in the sense that they've said that they don't support it in its current form. That's what I believe. So there is going to be some type of bill that passes, but I think the more that we can put pressure on this and the more that it can be modified, the better that it will be for people, because definitely they're going to have a response to what's happened at Bondi. There's no way that this government and the Liberal government, right, at the end of the day, because that's the the two same wings of the same bird that we talk about, it's the government that we have, they will at some point pass some type of laws. But the more that we can fight back against it, and obviously people can put pressure on them, the better the outcomes will be potentially. So yeah, definitely there's going to be something that happens. Where is Avi? I should have got Avi to come on. All right, guys. So thanks for all the comments. I appreciate it. Australia is a great country. Oh, let me just bring it up, Shane. Australia is the great country, but it's people running Australia is the problem. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's an amazing country. The politicians in any country are a problem, but in Australia more so, they've been somewhat of a problem, because the way that our preferential voting system works means that, you know, even if you don't get mass support of the majority of people, for instance, as a political party, you can elect some leader. That party can elect some leader because of preferential voting, and they get the right to elect their leader. So it is a bit of a crappy system in comparison, but there are some benefits to it as well. Rukshan, your thoughts on the NSN disbanding? Yeah, I will probably do this in another episode, actually. I won't go too much into it, but I did see that the National Socialist Network will be disbanding on the 18th of January when these new laws were slated to come in. I did see an interesting take from Nick Fuentes on this that I might share on the next stream, because, you know, he's from that right, you know, that side, the Groyper movement, and then you have these kind of neo-Nazi style movement in Australia as well, who, again, people like, you can't call them Nazis. Well, they're self-confessed Nazis. That's a part of the problem. That's one of the reasons they have to disband, because they've alienated themselves politically. But there is a sense, of course, that people are being targeted as well. So, you know, there's no denying that there's preferential treatment in Australia of certain minority groups, right? Certain, you know, for the sake of diversity and multiculturalism. And I spoke about this on my X as well, that one of the main reasons when it comes to, you know, the issue around Bondi, the terror attack in Australia in Bondi, was literally Islamic radical terrorists that attacked those Jewish people there, Jewish Australians at the Hanukkah festival for an ideological reason, basically motivated by religious hatred in one aspect for these people. And that is the main issue, right? But based on the back of that, we now have a whole heap of laws which are potentially coming into Australia in some form or another. It will definitely happen. That's going to be restricting the free speech of everyone to criticize anything, including the radical Islamists. Like, they almost get protections with this thing, which is insane, right? I don't know how that's come to that, but obviously the political class in Australia is so attuned to trying to please this whole concept of diversity that these kind of minority rights, you know, supersede everything else. And that's what's happened here. So, you know, we've got to support the minorities. We've got to protect them. When I say minority, it could be any group. It's not just about race or ethnicity. You know, we see this a lot with transgender issues in Australia, and, you know, gay rights and things like this. You know, you see this a lot when it comes to minority groups. Usually the left, Labour, the Greens, they will jump on the side of that and, you know, sell out the rest of the country. And that's pretty much what's happening in Australia. And what I was saying is that there is an aspect of this where it's almost impossible for a government, like an Australian government in the West these days, when they have heavy, you know, Muslim voting populations, to make the correct distinctions when it comes to religious issues around extremism. Because fundamentally, at the core basis of Islam, radical Islam and Islam share the same, you know, theological or scriptural basis of the things that they believe in. There hasn't been a reformation like we've seen in the West when it comes to Christianity. You know, the way that the West treats the Old Testament and the New Testament, there's a massive contrast. And the way that we've interpreted laws and customs and traditions to fit the Western way of life is very different to how, you know, traditional Islam is practiced in many parts of the world. Now, there is areas where it's done in a different way, and there's more secular nations who have a Islamic foundation of some sort. But overall, when it comes to it, the text between radical Islam and Islam proper, there's no real distinction there. And that's why the government will always jump into some sort of clash with religious freedom. So that argument always kind of protects the radicals in Islam. And that's what's happening. That's the actual thing that's happening, right? Everyone knows what it is. Everyone knows it's radical Islam. That's one of the major issues when it comes to this particular incident in Australia. But you can't really address it without the whole system crashing down. This whole multicultural diversity, I think that they've got all patched work together. You can't address that problem without all of that crashing down. So what they will do instead is find other targets, right? So it's usually the right, it's usually conservatives, it's usually we've got to restrict everyone's free speech, and that's kind of what's happened here, and it sucks. It sucks that it's like that, but that's kind of just how it is. All right, guys, let's read some more of your comments. Legend says, I've gone all in supporting Pauline Hanson. And that's one of the other things we've seen over the Christmas period to today. The support for One Nation has just grown exponentially. It has grown in ways when you look at the media stories, it looks like they might overtake the coalition. That's what it feels like when it comes to One Nation. But look, it's great to see. I think it's good to see have a strong minor party, because what we've had in the past in Australia with minor parties is that you have a lot of different little minor parties, and they all go down during election time, and they all squabble about things, and they all split the votes up, and then it kind of all ends up going to the Liberals in a way, somehow anyway, right? And none of the minor parties get in. But having a strong third contender would essentially mean that more votes, like first preference votes, let's say, would go towards that particular party, and they will have a chance of picking up more seats. So if One Nation do have more seats, whether it's just in the Senate or in the lower house, if they pull that off as well, I mean, it is a check and balance on some of the things which are happening. Now, not everyone agrees with Pauline Hanson, not everyone agrees with One Nation, but it will make a difference, because right now that balance of power is really held by the Greens, right, in Australia, which is a left-leaning, terrorist supporting, based on their actions, type of party. So it's held by the Greens, that power. And you're seeing, even when it comes to these hate speech laws right now, really it's the Greens that control the outcome. How wonderful would it be if it was more of a right-wing conservative party that controlled the outcome of something like that? So there is an element of that, definitely. And I would love to see One Nation pick up, enough seats to hold sway in the Senate even. That would make a massive difference, right? The House of Review. The hair is looking fab. Mate, there's none of this prepared. I'm just coming on because I wanted to. Some people were asking me questions about the project that I'm working on Context, and I wanted to give people a few more ideas around what it's all about, and why I'm doing it as well. So I'll probably recap at the end of this stream as well and go over what I'm building, and then as I go progressing through these live streams over the next couple of weeks, I will share with you the progress of this site. Now, in many aspects, yes, it'll, again, I'm competing with what's already out there, but I'm trying to make it a little bit different, right? We're trying to make it more independent media focused. We're trying to elevate the voices of independent media and citizen journalists who are making a difference around the world. So that's what I think it's really about. And that's what I'm trying to do. All right, give me a second. I'll just read some more of your comments. Nationals are wet lettuce, leaves weak, leaves our Labour light hopeless. Yeah, look, hopefully the kick in the ass that they're getting from One Nation right now will make them think twice. You would expect them to not want to, have their parties destroyed by their inability to rise to the occasion, right? That's really what's happening right now. And, you'd hope that the Liberals and the Nationals would get their act together, because realistically, they are the alternative party in terms of what we can expect to have in government. So you want them to be strong. You want them to have more views that are different to Labour. Right now, it's very similar, and hopefully, One Nation being there will move them more to centre right. Same way that the Greens moved Labour to the left. There's another super chat here. Give me a second. Rook, what are your thoughts on Dan Bilzerian? Look, I don't really follow him closely that much. I personally don't. Personally, I don't enjoy his takes. I feel like obviously for me, this is again my view and my opinion. He's gone down the whole conspiratorial, blame the Jews for everything path. And yes, there's an audience for that online. We see that all the time when there's an audience for it, but that's his only shtick. And, when he was running around being a playboy, whatever, yeah, like people thought maybe that's interesting. But now, like, he's doing the political commentary stuff. Again, he's obviously got a, much bigger audience than me. Who am I to compare or say these things? But if you wanted me to have an opinion and I'm comparing him to other commentators, no, I don't really take whatever he's saying very seriously. I think, a lot of his views come across as being very hateful. And obviously, he's got a certain agenda that he's very open about. Do you think capitalism, communism are both the two sides of the same coin? I think you could have a learned discussion around this and maybe write an essay on this and try to find little connections, right? You understand what I'm trying to say. But in the real world, I think there is a massive difference between something like capitalism and communism. I saw a great tweet. I can't remember from who. Just the other day, I think it was actually Elon Musk who shared someone else saying this, and it was like there was a reason that they built. Well, there was in our post World War II, you had that Berlin Wall right in Germany, splitting the East and the West, and he was saying there's a reason that the people on this, on the USSR side, were continually trying to escape over to the West, right? No one was trying to go the other way. So there's a reason for that. And we see that, places like North Korea, we see it in other countries which are, communist in nature, that people don't want to live there. They want to get out of there. And yes, capitalism is not perfect. But, in terms of, in the West at least, in access to, free markets and the way that people do things and freedom, and I'm just kind of bringing all these things together, that system by far allows for much greater autonomy for the individual than something like communism. I think there's definitely a difference, even though you could make certain arguments and draw certain conclusions based on theory. In real world practice, we've seen difference over a long time. DML, good to have you back, mate. If Melbourne built a Berlin Wall, the CFMEU would make it cost 40 billion. Yeah, that's true. They will find a way. I mean, that wall, they'll build it over like 10 years. And you're right. It'll blow its budget like every single year. It'll be like increased by another $1 billion until it's done. But we recently had the metro tunnel completed in Victoria, and I went there today to the North Melbourne station, Parkville. And the completed product is great. I mean, it's a great facility for the people of Victoria, easier access for students. Like, all of those things are great, but it's just the way that it's built, the way that these contracts are handed out, the way that people abuse the system. I think that's what pisses people off. Not that the fact that we get great facilities. I think, we should have great facilities in Australia. We should have world-class facilities in Australia. It's great to have a great, subway-style system in Australia. So I'm not against that, but it's just the way that the Victorian government wastes money, as well as how they look after their mates in organisations like the CFMEU. And, these costs blow out, and it ends up costing us exorbitant amounts. Mate, Stove Stone, thanks for jumping in, mate. Good to see you again. I'm not going to go into the whole Vietnam thing today. I'm not going to go into the whole Vietnam thing. That's hilarious. Not going into Vietnam today. Be a Better Gem says, even with capitalism, lazy, useless people can live on the couch smoking bongs, doing nothing but get fat. Try that with communism. Yeah, I mean, there is an aspect of that. We are living in societies where, there's a massive welfare class that's been established. That is, it's not really a feature of capitalism per se. It's kind of the welfare state, these kind of socialist programs that we have. That in some respects it works, like the Medicare system, the healthcare system in Australia, I think is pretty decent compared to some other places in terms of the costs for people to access medical services. But it gets abused, or we have the abuse of systems like NDIS that all of a sudden everyone is somewhat disabled. All of a sudden, a certain percentage of the population become disabled as soon as government starts handing out welfare based on disabilities. So we have those problems, and it's very hard to manage that because it becomes political issues, it becomes election issues. It's the same reason that in the US, every time the election gets going, they start talking about Medicaid and how this person's going to cut it, or Trump's going to get rid of social this and that. It's the same reason. When it becomes political, these systems tend to stay in and become ingrained. Yeah, Rook, just hope there's never an emergency in the tunnel because the fireys are not coming to save anyone. I did see something a lot about this from people in the fire department just before the tunnels opened. I don't know if that's being rectified. They're talking about the service, sort of the quality of the air or something like this, or the access to some areas. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know what you're talking about. DML, the way elections have gone in recent years, the majority of Australians are mentally disabled. Yeah, no comment. And we got a comment here from Charles who says, can't wait to be in jail for talking shit. Yeah, I mean, the other day I was talking about radical Islam, and then someone said to me, hey, Rukshan, you know what you wrote? They're going to put you in jail retrospectively, even if you wrote something 5 years ago. Now, I don't know how formally that will be applied and if that will get changed when these discussions are happening around these laws. Hopefully, it sounds a bit crazy, right? You got politicians in America talking about it as well. But yeah, we are turning into a nanny state, and it is possible that we will be ending up in jail for the things that we say on social media. Rook, have you kissed the wall? I have been to the Western Wall, the Wailing Wall, and I have paid my respects there as well. In the city, of King David, I read Psalm 23. It's a special connection for us Christians to that part of the world. All right, guys. So thanks for joining in. So the reason I started this whole stream was to give you an update on what I've been building, which is the context. Let me just go back to my browser now. So this is the context AU that I've been building. If I can go to that page. So over the next couple of, if you're not following already, guys, jump in and follow the context, right? It's got in development, but I will be testing features over the next couple of days as I build them out. Right now, I've got a GoFundMe there to support me. Some crypto community has made a bags token as well. So thank you. I'll jump into that community after this. But yeah, you can do the GoFundMe if you want to support my work there. Like I explained at the start, I'm building a news service type aggregator service, powered by, intelligence, also, powered by, these kind of, commentators and opinions from online sources as well. So combining the two together and giving people access to, documents and press releases and, documents from Parliament as much as I can with the system that I'm building. I'm going to automate a lot of these processes so it happens in the background. And then, the goal is to also build in features that can help and assist people to save that news, to share that news. And then to also create content from that news as well. That's the end goal. But you got to start with baby steps. So right now I'm just building the backend. I'm using AI assisted coding tools like Claude to build the backend, and then I'm going to link that into a front end, the front facing website, which will actually give you all access to all this content. And then I'm pretty sure I can do this with some of the APIs, automate it all and link it up to X and my Facebook and so on. So that's what I'm working on. Thank you for joining me for this stream, guys. I really appreciate it. I will do another stream if need be. And I'll also be back to my regular shows next week as well. So thanks for doing that. My nose is getting stuffy. It's been a lot of fun chatting with you all. I appreciate it. Again, thank you for those of you who are supporting me on the GoFund on my Facebook. I really appreciate it. I can't thank you enough. It really does help individuals like myself when we're taking on more of these mainstream outlets and trying to do these things. So every bit of help, definitely helps me. Thanks to the Context Bag community. I have claimed my fees. I don't know what's happened since that time, but I will jump into the community. Thank you guys. I'll be in there. Everything I'm doing is, a long-term project. So this is going to be there for good. I'm building this one way or another. We're getting it done. And this is just the start of it. So thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. Great to be back in the new year. Hope you're all having a good night. I will see you all next time. Take care, guys. Bye.